I was giving a presentation to a business group, and I said, you only need to ask 2 questions to determine if a candidate's competent or not. And the business group, about 20 or 30 CEOs from small companies. About 2 to 3 weeks later, and at the time I was a recruiter, so my marketing technique as a recruiter, and I lucked out on finding this idea. I started speaking to business groups around the country of CEOs of companies that were, say, 10 million to 250 million. And I'd get there and I present a 2 to 3 hour presentation on how to do performance-based hiring. I don't think I called it that at the time, but the same thing. So about 3 or 4 weeks later, after this one presentation, CEO calls and says, Lou, what were those 2 questions you said about that meeting last month? And I said, well, the 2 questions don't matter. What are you looking for? He said, well, it doesn't matter. Just tell me the 2 questions. I said, the 2 questions are absolutely useless unless you tell me what you're looking for. Well, I'm looking for a VP operations. I said, well, I have to know a little bit about the job before the 2 questions are meaningful. He said, I don't have time. Just give me the 2 questions. And he was getting angry. But I was a recruiter at the time. So if he was looking for a VP operations for a company, and it was at his offices or his company where this meeting was, so I said, I got to spend at least an hour to understand the job. He said, I don't have time. Just tell me the 2 questions. He was getting real aggravated. But the 2 questions, which I'll give you in a minute, don't make any sense unless you know the job. So I said, why are you so insistent on these 2 questions? I need to know the job. He said, because the candidate's in the front office. I said, now I understand. I said, okay. I said, and I just kind of tell me a little bit about VP operations. He had a company making manufactured parts, largely wood, furniture, and related. So I said, okay, here's what you're going to do. Do not go in your office. You're looking for a VP operations. Go in your factory. And if you're walking through the factory, stop at every place you have a problem. And I kind of remember because we took a tour of his factory. He said, I know one of the things is you have a lot of scrap, a lot of wood scrap, and it was piled up. So whether that's the first stop or the third stop doesn't matter, but go to those kinds of situations and point out the problem. We have a lot of scrap and it's probably costing us 10 to 15%. We got to reduce it by 75%. So it's less than 2% of total expenditures, whatever that is. Then ask the candidate 2 questions. Question 1 is, if you were to get this job, how would you solve that problem? Eliminating the scrap. And you're not listening to the actual answer. It's the methodology in which the person would solve the problem. I got to understand the root cause. I got to do this. I got to talk to this. I got to talk to that. Whatever it is, they go through that issue. The second question is, what have you done that's most comparable solving problems like that? And spend 10 or 15 minutes on the answer to that. How did you do it? Why'd you do it? How'd you get chosen? What was the problem? What were the results? Walk me through step by step how you went from the problem to the solution. Now go around the factory and do that 3 or 4 more times with all the other big problems. I had a labor problem, had a material procurement problem, had a scrap problem, had a warehouse layout problem. It doesn't matter what the problems are. Ask those 2 questions. And I don't care. The order doesn't matter. Have you ever solved a problem like that? Tell me through, how would you solve this problem? You can ask either or. It doesn't matter. Maybe switch them both. Now call me, and this was like 11 o'clock or so. He said, I'm seeing him here. I said, oh, call me this afternoon when you're done. So he calls me about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. He said, great questions. Great. The candidate was a great consultant. He had an idea to figure out every single problem. But when I asked him what he has done that's most comparable, he was like nothing. That was superficial. He didn't really ever do it. He was a good talker, good consultant, but he couldn't work in a factory like that with a couple hundred people. Lou, do you want to do the search for the VP operations? Come on up tomorrow and we'll do it. So